Everything you need is to succeed at least once. A terrifying werewolf in fury prepares to strike with its sharp claws, which end up hitting the cheek of a young warrior, who narrowly dodges and prepares a counterattack with his sword. However, the werewolf leaps into the air, surprising the warrior with its agility. With no time to react, the monster's foot approaches the swordsman at high speed, delivering a powerful kick to the man's jaw, sending him flying. The blow is so strong that just the impact against the wall caused immense destruction in the area. Finally, the warrior finds himself practically defeated, in a pitiful state amidst stones and dust. However, he used his last strength to mock the monster, which, despite knocking him down, had been pierced by him a few seconds later. The warrior recovers and grabs his sword, which is embedded in the werewolf's body. Finish it off once and for all, ending the monster's life with a cinematic, precise, and fatal vertical strike. Then he thinks there's nothing in this infernal world, and a system message informs him that the level 4 hellhound is exterminated. He is alone with these monsters that keep appearing, and the system continues, saying that he has gained a certain amount of experience. While grumbling, one of the messages catches his attention, informing him of a level up. However, suddenly, a system error appears with the notification starting to collapse, along with the warrior's mental state, causing immense frustration in the swordsman, who was informed that level 4 Ryo Hambin returned to level 1. He needs to be at level 5 to move to the next area, making him cry out for help, as he is desperate to be stuck in this place for so long. However, the endless red immensity of that place seemed to have no end. During his terrible stay in this plane, the young warrior had faced dragons in his first year. Then 2 years passed with him still trapped in that place, trying to adapt thus. Time continued for 3 and 5 years, with the hero now facing the monsters that once tormented him. In a battle with one of them, the system warns that after piercing the dragon, the fall would likely lead to his end. But that didn't happen after being trapped in this hell for so long. The only thing left for the warrior to maintain his sanity and hope was counting his days on the cave walls. But 10 years had already passed since he fell into this world. So he gave up counting the days and, in a fit of rage, destroyed the place with a punch. The man had been isolated for so long, having fought only against monsters for a decade. Thus, even with the system sabotaging him, he naturally became stronger. On a typical day of his routine, the hero starts thinking about what his current level might be. Meanwhile, he finds himself above a colossal dragon ready to start his hunt, somewhere in the kingdom's alleys. Whispers are heard, followed by unpleasant moans. A blond man is being attacked and already on the ground. With his last breath, he comments that these demons are scum, and that the goddess will have no mercy on them. But the aggressor finishes him off before he can give any elaborate testimony. A hooded figure tells his partner to take it easy, because they'll be in serious trouble if they're caught by a Rafanian. But the woman doesn't seem to care about the warning. However, the man says they can return there to kill more once they completed the contract, which convinces the girl to leave the place. Finally, the woman comments that their job is easy, because they just need to find the person who came to this world, the same way they did. And as she leaves the alley, the girl sets everything on fire to cover the evidence. This is a world called the Hello Rafna, where someone is selected as the chosen one. The objective in this world is to survive and become as strong as possible. After this brief explanation, a small wolf fights the protagonist's arm and throws him to the ground, making him scream in pain. The man rolls for several meters among the stones and landslides of a place. And when he manages to stop, he is extremely confused. Not knowing what is happening there or where he is, then he looked back, wondering what that dog was. However, he didn't even have time to think about his current situation, already having to defend himself by smashing the animal's skull with the stone that was beside him and throwing it away as he went to check the monster's body after his attack. One thing was on his mind: if he didn't finish off, the animal would kill him. Even with his jaw completely shattered by the received stone hit, the monster's instinct makes it continue its assault to the end, placing the protagonist against the edge of a cliff. While he doesn't understand why the animal is attacking him, a yellow message appears in front of him, saying it contains instructions. This confuses him, as he realizes there is a system of levels and strength, and that players can level up and gain experience by defeating monsters. For a moment, this trace of happiness at realizing he is in a fantasy world causes the hero to lose concentration on the monster that is about to strike him. In such a case, you couldn't stop thinking about where things started to go wrong. As he got up from his bed, he thought about how he woke up every day at noon and wondered if he had been too lazy. 3 months have passed since he was released from mandatory military service, so he felt he had enough reason to relax a bit, thinking that after leaving the army, he could become an active part of society. The last 3 months ended up being an eternal void. Nothing in him changed even in the 2 years he spent serving, with his reality being just eating chips and using his computer recreationally. However, this was a reality that would change very soon. While eating his chips as usual, suddenly a brown smoke began to envelop him, leaving him desperate, but there was nothing he could do. So the smoke began to consume him, and within seconds of this event, he had completely disappeared from the room, leaving only his chair and paraphernalia as abandoned legacies. A black and white plane. Someone states that all the chosen ones have been gathered, and our hero wonders if he has gone to a better place. The voice continues to complain about the small number of people present. As in heard there were 7 billion candidates. Someone converses with this voice, informing that precisely because there were 7 billion candidates, they managed to find so many chosen ones. The protagonist cannot understand what is being said and wonders if this is the voice of God. While the voice continues to instruct all the players, the first voice asks if they can really do this questioning, if it won't be too artificial. But the other responds that it will serve as motivation and help. So, after deciding on the discussion, the transmission of instructions begins, and a beam of light pierces the protagonist's chest, making him groan in pain. A voice noticed there was an error in the instructions, but didn't care since it only happened to one person. Thus the chosen one. Number 388 begins his dimensional transport while smashing the wolf's skull with a stone. Our protagonist thinks he was selected as a chosen one, and that where he is the world of Telarafa. However, his reality is of tremendous insolence. Even now, our warrior cannot believe that everything he is going through is real, and while he is frustrated, he is also irritated. His life is now in this hell without the comforts of before, and without his parents he doesn't know what will happen to him. In a fit of rage, the protagonist throws a stone away and punches the ground. After his moment of despair, he comments about being released just 3 months ago, so he didn't even get a girlfriend, lamenting about why this is happening to him. Suddenly, a system message informs him of danger and says that at the moment, there is only a 5% chance of surviving in Fel Harathana with the player's current abilities. Situation confuses our hero, who begins to realize that this thing is really testing his consciousness by asking if he wants to end his life. The situation was revolting because those people kidnapped a normal person and abandoned him in a different world, saying it's necessary to kill monsters to gain experience. So an option in the system to end his own life is being induced to be chosen wisely. The protagonist declines, thinking that if he dies, he will not be sent home, and deciding to stay calm. They wouldn't have kidnapped him if they plan to send him back home after he died. Whether he likes it or not, it will be his end if he doesn't take care around here for now. The protagonist needs to think of a way to survive and find a way out of there. In light of this, the system informs that the chosen one had his strength increased by finding his fighting spirit as a yellow light shines in his eyes. Serum windows appear and ask for a class to be chosen. Quickly, a protagonist expression improves as he realizes he will no longer have to fight with bare hands and can choose a class. The warrior class is presented as a melee class that can use various martial techniques, but the hero thinks this is only fun in games. Then upon viewing the mage class and understanding that long-distance combat is the best thing to do, he decides to choose this class. However, upon confirming his choice, the system informs him that the selection was rejected because he doesn't have the necessary capacity for the class. So the hero tries the magic swordsman class, but his selection is rejected again, followed by the rejection of the healer and priest classes, which makes the protagonist lament and frustration. Finally, he found himself forced to choose the last remaining class, the one he had initially denied, the warrior class. In the next selection stage, the system asks him to choose an initial weapon. Understanding that long reach is essential, the hero chooses the long spear, not wanting any other weapon. After this, a strong light emanates from that virtual window, ready to reveal the player's initial weapon, which unexpectedly turns out to be a long sword. The hero tries to argue with the system that he had chosen a long spear, and not the sword, but that previous error occurs again. Nervous as never before, he starts to complain and insult the system. But in a split second, the window closes, and the hero remembers that voice, saying it made a mistake in the instructions. Knowing that the instructions were the only useful things there, error could be something that might condemn his life. On the verge of madness, the hero falls to the ground and starts to laugh, but thinks that he doesn't want to act as those people expect him to. So wielding his sword, he thinks that at least this is better than a stone. However, the hero doesn't want his end to be there and is determined to do whatever it takes. Thus, in this place, his hellish and endless journey of strengthening will begin. On the other hand, while the protagonist trains with his sword, he apparently doesn't seem to have many skills, with it inevitably falling to the ground and starting to lament his situation. 7 days have passed since the hero came to Fel Harathna, and he has asked the tutorial countless times how he could go home, but it remains silent every time, making him wonder if it was just another bug anyway. At this moment, the hero is fighting to survive. An animal hits his shoulder, causing pain, and the protagonist chases after the monster. Very irritated, the dogs he always faces are hellhounds, and if there's one thing he has learned is that these dogs level up. 2. Additionally, after he strikes with his sword, he takes the opportunity to advance and attack again. This makes the protagonist wonder if the monster is learning to face him. Just as he is so, he has only one choice, which is to charge with all his strength. Attacking primitively, however, the blow is not effective at all, as the animal easily dodges. Now far from his attack, the monster starts to laugh, making our hero think he has no talent with swords. Now it's the animal's turn to attack. With a bloodthirsty instinct, it charges with everything it has. However, the hero is now more prepared than before and is about to use his secret resource, his thrusting skill, which incredibly finishes the animal with just one strike. The system informs him that the level 2 hellhound has been exterminated and awards 22 experience points to the protagonist. Ruhambin finally obtained a skill upon reaching level 2, but because he hasn't learned how to handle a sword, he can barely use his thrust effectively. Furthermore, this is just one of the tutorial functions. If you search through the system, hellhounds can also be considered perfect food as they contain fats, amino acids, carbohydrates, fibers, and minerals, but even with all their violent nature, their fangs and claws become unusable right after death. So this place seems to have been artificially created. I was sure there is a reason they brought him here, since there would be no reason to keep him trapped for nothing. Remembering the voice's comment about there being only 7 billion candidates, the hero wonders where the other chosen ones were sent. However, something in the system window catches his attention, making him stop. Eating it informs that the protagonist will be able to leave the Rocky Mountains, which is his current area, and meet other chosen ones once he reaches level 5. Rue was surprised by the information received, and the system continues. Initial zone is made up of Rocky Mountains as a safe area, where death rates are lower and experience gain is optimized. Monsters corresponding to the level only appear in safe zones. And once the hero reaches level 20, he will be able to complete the map of Fellow Rafna and travel to the continent. All this information fries the hero's brain, who begins to put the pieces together. This is a beginner area, where players level up to level 5, and if he reaches level 5, he can proceed and then form groups with others. Upon reaching level 20 and being transported to the continent, the real battle will begin. And all of this makes Rue crazy with anxiety. He understands that this is how the hellhounds are getting stronger, and although it is not important, the hero still wants to return home someday. Ryu believes he cannot trust the tutorial, so to meet other chosen ones and get more information, he must reach level 5 and get out of there. After that, the hero started wandering in search of hellhounds, and consequently began hunting them, with the hellhounds growing stronger at the same pace as he was. Defeating them did not become any easier. While eating a piece of roasted meat, the system informed the hero that he gained 22 more experience points, consequently leveling up, and by leveling up, he learned the side slash skill, continuing to face those dogs. Facing a level 3 hellhound, with strength similar to that of a beginner warrior, he fought and was injured besides having eliminated many of them eaten. Fought, gotten injured, and killed. with this sequence repeating countless times in an endless cycle of gaining experience and killing monsters. After being headbutted in the stomach by one of the hellhounds, our protagonist flew far, being thrown against the ground. He manages to compose himself and, while sliding on the ground, uses one of his hands to grab some sand. Then the monster again tries to attack Ryu with a bite that, if it hit, would end everything, but in a cunning act, the hero throws that sand into the monster's eyes, blinding it for a short period. Then he grabs his sword and delivers a side slash right in the middle of the hellhound's face, ultimately finishing it off. As a result, the system informs him of more experience gain, and that Ryu has now reached the necessary amount of experience. After the 27th day, our hero finally reaches his goal, leaving him in a state of immense happiness and relief. Having leveled up until now, Ryu had learned 3 skills: the thrust, the side slash, and the vertical slash. Not only that, but his body also began to show the effects of the attributes he gained, now being at the peak physical condition of a man. Even his sword, which was difficult to wield before, had become easy to handle. But as he praised his achievements, an error appeared again in the system window. That's what he thought, but suddenly something strange was happening. The system informed that Ryu Hanbin, who was previously a level 4 warrior, had now returned to level 1. While trying to deny the reality, our hero thinks the tutorial is going crazy and that it must be just a message error. However, upon checking his status window again, he realized that the level change had indeed happened, bringing him back to level 1 once more. This left the protagonist in a state of immense fury, screaming in disbelief at the injustice happening to him. However, Ryu tries to calm down because he realizes that at least his attributes were retained, as well as his skills at first. The hero tried to look at things optimistically, thinking he had the chance to get ahead of his peers by farming all the XP of the 5 levels again. He somewhat convinced himself that this would be a beneficial experience for building his character. But what awaited him was nothing like what the hero had in mind. When facing the level 1 hellhound again, Ryu realizes that the monster is at a completely different level. He was wrong because the hellhounds continued to grow stronger, despite their levels also returning to the beginning, making Ryu continue to risk his life day after day in each battle. After countless attempts to reach level 5, our hero always maintained the hope that this time it would work. He was sure that if he tried one more time, he would succeed. But this repeated infinitely until Ryu finally began to despair. During another fight now against a massive 3-headed hellhound, the protagonist cuts it down with ease. Our hero continued killing monsters that kept getting stronger and kept checking his experience. This time, he was only 77 experience points away from evolving to level 5 and leaving that place the hero while carrying the monster's body. Comments that 7 used to be his lucky number, so this time everything will go well. And as he throws it into a ravine full of monster bones, Ruth thinks that in the last 7 years, he has survived in this hellish situation, going from level 1 to 4 in an eternal cycle. The chosen ones do not age, and thanks to the recovery ability, all wounds heal in just 1 day. Returning to level 1 does not reduce their attributes, but they cannot learn new skills because they cannot surpass level 4. Their only skills are thrusts, side slash, and vertical slash. As the hero is about to face a massive bone hellhound, he mocks the monster that came to him, making its extermination easier. The system notified that the monsters were placed there to help the chosen ones get stronger, but they are only there to be killed. In this case, an undead monster makes no sense. However, after so much time in that place, the same can be said about our protagonist. The tutorial transmission for the chosen ones was completed, and the 5th Jaren Rapon operation was initiated. A being thinks they are well accustomed to it, since it's their 5th time there. And even in another world, players take at most a year to complete everything while walking. They just hope to find some useful players this time. But they notice something amid that emptiness, a world seemingly discarded by someone and probably broken, which makes them think it's very strange. Then while rummaging through that box, the being inevitably finds a picture frame of the player Ryu Hanbin, who is currently connected to Felharathna. In a peaceful house on a comfortable bed, someone is resting. This person is Ryu, who wakes up in his home, wondering if he has really returned to his original world. He believes it makes sense, because he was just discharged and thinks he should sleep a bit more. However, a system alarm catches his attention, not letting the hero sleep. It again urges the protagonist and his life as a way to camouflage the mistake he made. Facing the gravity of the situation he was about to take, Ryu wakes up in that hellish world and quickly removes his hand from the system button. Sitting on the ground in a state of confusion, the hero wonders where he is. He remembers that he has been killing hellhounds like a madman for the past 10 years, thinking it seems he survived another day. But inevitably, he ended up back at level 1 again. This makes him curl up in a fetal position and grunt in frustration. The hero wonders if he can really say he is living, and if it wouldn't be better to just give up, however. This depressive thought quickly leaves his mind when the protagonist hears a strange noise. As he gets up from the ground, Ryu wonders if after agonizing for so long, he will be sent home. If he decides to end his life, still if he is going to die, it would be better to make his life worth something. And even then, there was a part of the Kiryu that didn't want to give up. In this case, Ryu wielded his sword, returns to the combat zone, deciding to at least defeat one more of those bastards. After being trapped in this hell for 10 years, the hero gave up counting the days. He no longer knew how much time had passed, whether it was 5 or 7 years. So he developed a hobby and even found something to do. Surviving alone is not an easy task, and this harsh environment did not allow him to be lazy. Because of this, after his weapon was destroyed by the wear of time, our hero in his hobby creates a new one, bigger and better, and as he places it to rest on his back, Ryu thinks that this is now his reality. In the case of not being able to change his situation, he can dedicate himself to doing whatever he can. If there was nothing but rocks, then he just needed to create things. And that's how he built a house, living each day more devoted to this lifestyle. Until now, Ryu no longer lived with anger. But in an instant, his dream was destroyed by a giant hellhound. That crushed the hero's house. At that moment, the hero couldn't believe what had just happened. And with no time to rest, a hand from the monster sweeps across the ground, coming towards the hero to hit him. Suddenly, the blow strikes Ryu, who is thrown far away, destroying everything in his path. However, the monster was also hit, having his arm cut off by the protagonist. The hellhound can't believe this David's hand, but the hero cuts short its lamentation, saying it took him 3 years to build that house. With this, an intimidating aura begins to emanate from the protagonist as he remembers his house, which was turned to dust by the monster since it was small. This time, Ryu decides to build a palace with the bones of that hellhound. Giant hellhounds like this started to appear, but they were noisy and didn't even taste good. Understanding the danger is in, the monster takes flight to try to escape, and Ryu mocks the monster, saying that even though it is so big, it is still a coward despite everything. After constant hunting, the hero learned the best strategy to defeat them, since they always start with a powerful attack. In a display of power, the hellhound launches its fire attack. Dramatic Breath Ryu was slightly impressed by the monster, starting with such a potent attack. Inevitably, the attack hits everything within its radius, releasing fire, dust, and lightning. After that powerful attack, the monster waits for the dust to settle, standing to check the state of its enemy. However, what it sees is something that defies natural laws and all possible logic. It's clear that it is impossible to dodge the hellhound's breath attack because the area of effect is too large. So the hero covers his body and blocks the damage with his strength. But even though he defended himself, the monster burned the tips of his hair, saving him a trip to the beauty salon. Surprised to see the enemy in perfect condition, Hellhound then casts thunder, light, and fire spells, but these were very painful to be hit by. In this case, the hero blocks them by creating a large earth wall, lifted by swinging his sword against the ground. And after that, he quickly dissipates the created barrier. Thus, he moves to deliver his final blow. However, not everything always goes according to the hero's wishes, as it cannot be said that he has talent for swordsmanship. So Ryu improvises by using his physical potential to his advantage. Moreover, the hero also doesn't have other skills because he can't level up. But at the ones he has already trained them many times. To be more precise, he trained them 10,000 times each. Then Ryu consecutively strikes the monster of the vertical slash, a side slash, and a thrust. Combining the 3 skills, a new one is created, the crosscut. named Triple Cross Attack is not a real skill, but no monster can stand after being hit by it. So Ryu is happy to survive another day. Back to the vision of that incomprehensible being, who upon seeing the picture frame of Ryu, realizes that this player is currently connected in Felharaven, believing it to be a bug. The being doesn't understand why the boy is still there, and is surprised, because the 5th generation is operating in Jaren Rathna right now, and the 4th in Roa Rathna. And before that, the 3rd generation in Telhara Rathna. Desperate, the being understands that that player has been there for more than 22 years, sitting on the ground. The entity thinks it won't be able to invent an excuse if that person finds out, and also can end the hero's life. However, when checking the player's status, he realizes there are heroes only at level 4, questioning how he survived for 22 years. Besides, the player's skills and attributes were terrible, but that wasn't entirely bad, because a malicious idea came to the entity's mind. In Falarathna, as usual, Ree reaches Hellhound Meat, while saying that he always felt that reaching level 4 was a breeze. Deciding to take a look at his attributes, he activates the extra attributes visualization that reveals the protagonist's immeasurable hidden potential incredibly. He also couldn't understand the true potential of his strength, and thinking he is at level 4, Rue comments that he wants to eat tasty things and meet people. The hero can't see an end to his suffering in that place, but believes that as long as he stays alive, everything will work out, thinking positively. He believes that one day the day will come when he can leave there. Suddenly something cracks in the sky, catching the protagonist's attention, who quickly looks at the phenomenon. The being says that if he does this, some problems might arise, and the system informs that the hero has completed the Thel. Harathan level our hero doesn't understand what's happening, but the entity states that all it needs to do is erase the player, and his records, believing that he will lose his life on the continent because he is still at level 4. A beam of light falls to the ground, breaking everything and lifting the rocks in an explosive phenomenon. Ryu begins to levitate and becomes very confused, while the being wishes for the hero to disappear completely. On the Rathna continent, as the hero is levitated, he doesn't understand why everything is happening. So suddenly he's informed that the teleportation of the chosen ones to the designated level has begun on the continent. A storm approaches a rocky mountain. Suddenly, a lightning bolt falls from the middle of a cloud to the center of a forest. The sound of the lightning hitting the forest floor wakes a draconic descendant, who grumbles about these beings not stopping coming there. The demons from other worlds are ones the monster seems to know well, judging by the equipment it apparently keeps as trophies. After all this time, everything he saw had become normal. A red sky where the sun neither rises nor sets, with piles of dead tree branches on the ground. But now, without any warning, everything changed. The hero jumps high above the trees to get a view of his surroundings. He's stunned by the landscape, unable to believe what his eyes are seeing. Being trapped in a rocky hell for so long made him forget the world's beauty. And at this moment, the hero is in the safe forest in the Kingdom of Grey. Ryu throws himself into a river belly first, laughing and enjoying his experience to the fullest. He doesn't know what is happening, and this is not his home, but it is still better than that damn mountain. However, everything is still strange, because as soon as he arrived there, his level went up to 5, granting him a communication skill. Thinking for a moment, Rue realized that he should be at least level 20 to come to the Rathnan continent. So he doesn't know the real reason he was brought there, questioning whether his system is still malfunctioning and what he should do. But while peeking through the attribute window, he notices something he had never seen before. A final mission notification, asking him to kill one of the 6 goddesses of Rathna. If he kills this goddess, his rewards will be eternal youth and immortality, besides being sent back to Earth with his attributes intact and his wishes granted. However, the hero must keep his identity as a being from another world a secret and register at the Hunters Guild in the corporate city of Ampros. Suddenly, that draconic monster appears and roars with great power to intimidate its opponent. Realizes is a monster and starts to worry, because it seems to be a dragon. The monster calls our hero a despicable demon from another world and questions how he dares to enter its forest. Furthermore, it asks if he plans to face it without a weapon in his hands. Rehabilitated notices he is far from his sword and sees it a few meters behind him. However, the draconic monster is preparing an attack, giving the hero no time to act. So if he realizes he will have to fight empty-handed, a monster launches a burst of blue fire, saying it will burn him to ashes. But the protagonist easily dodges while preparing a punch. He thinks this is the perfect moment to shake his enemies and kill him. Right after initially, the monster does not take the approaching blow seriously, calling it a ridiculous attempt. However, after being hit, it flies far away from the force of the blow, now opening a gap for the hero to retrieve his sword, which inevitably proved unnecessary when Ryu saw the damage his punch had caused the creature. In an epilogue, we are shown the monster story. It was a brilliant dragon living in the skies of the Extra Kingdom. The name of this dragon was Efer, and it was always the pride of the knights. However, Efer faced serious problems in the form of the kingdom's prince, who complained about wanting to ride it. However, riding a dragon is not easy, and in the end, the prince suffered a sudden death in one of his training sessions. Poor knight of Efer was executed, and she managed to escape the kingdom with the help of other kind knights. The lone dragon, now living in the forest, had no time to feel her grief, because the forest was full of humans from other worlds, who appeared all the time. However, despite having received the training, she never killed her opponents. In this case, could it be said that the kind effort was really the source of terrible disasters? Then countless hunters gathered to hunt our poor dragon, and after being severely beaten, Effort thought to herself that letting humans from other worlds live was a bad idea. After that, they continued to appear. So she had no choice, and besides, she is not a dragon, but a wyvern. Dragons have 4 legs and their wings are on their shoulders, whereas werewolves have wings on their forelimbs. Thus, she's one of them besides. This is common knowledge and begging. The monster asked to be released from the protagonist's custody. In an interrogation system, Rio asks how she knows he's from another world. And Efer says she wasn't sure just by looking, but that Raphaels rarely appear there. In this case, the hero realized that this wyvern just assumed he was a person from another world. So this means no one will be able to discover his identity just by his appearance. And after this realization, Ryu asks Efer if this is the safe forest in Grayla. Almost crying, Efer says that this kingdom was destroyed years ago and is now called Exgrad, which makes the hero angry again because the tutorial is outdated. She pleads for her life, stating she didn't know he was so strong. But Ryu argues that she should have stayed quiet instead of attacking. However, the wyvern says she did it because he is a demon from another world, which makes Ryu angry at being called that. Trying to explain, Efer says it wasn't her who said it, but the goddess, which piques the protagonist's curiosity. The wyvern asks to be treated before anything else, but the hero is very irritated. Additionally, it is revealed that humans from other worlds started appearing in Rathna 40 years ago initially. Humans from other worlds and Rathnans got along well, but this did not last long. Humans from other worlds began killing to level up, and the most powerful among them allied. Moreover, they created the Great Land, a group with the objective of killing the goddess. Humans from other worlds are strong because, like dragons, they can easily level up by killing their opponents. There was no way to face them, since they were LED by a level 100 hunter. So before the heroes came Beryl the Sword, King Zenobia the Archmage, Garan the Terrible, and Holly in the Transcend, concerning existence and demise appeared. They swiftly slaughtered the extraterrestrial people, and subsequently the 6 deities. In addition to the continental inhabitants, are otherworldly fiends who forged pacts with a wicked dark entity, and consequently, they are rapidly dispatched, while trampling upon the creature's remains. Riri counters, stating he was abruptly abducted and abandoned to decay on a craggy peak for many years. But upon finally departing the location, he uncovers that should his alien origins be revealed, the whole landmass shall become hostile. Furthermore, these events transpired prior to the Weaver's birth. Yet the extremely annoyed protagonist inquires whether the goddesses possess sufficient power for such actions. Re declares indifference towards divine servitude, but vows to eliminate the accursed infernal deity, and thus with a menacing presence, he proclaims his intention to survive and return. Gazing upon the adversary, the protagonist states he must conceal his true persona, causing the beast to shudder in terror, while vowing to maintain secrecy. Nonetheless, a horrifying shriek reverberates through the peak, exposing the creature's grim demise. 5 days subsequently upon departing the aforementioned woodland, immense fortress ramparts are visible on the skyline. This is a metropolis in the northerly region of the X-Rad realm, the Empire's municipality, which is not solely substantial in scale, but additionally in its citizen count. Encompassing it lies the secure woodland, and a subterranean labyrinth in the Ifan dimension, where innumerable beasts materialize ceaselessly. Numerous bounty hunters seek rapid riches by jeopardizing their existence. Several of them hail from the Empire's mercenary collective. Individuals arriving there are either headhunters or aspirants. Nevertheless, it could potentially be a differing circumstance, such as the formidable entities from alternate realities. Infiltrating the Enterprise Association, a leading figure commands everyone's gaze as he advances toward the welcome area. His stature and physique amaze the ordinary people. They ponder if the gentleman is from a different group, and remark he appears to be a seasoned tracker. When one commoner was about to disrespect Ryu, the receptionist stepped in, striking the person and greeting the champion. Since she doesn't identify Rio as a huntsman, she inquires if it's his initial visit to the Empress Association and how she can assist while quiet prevails in the location. Our protagonist speaks to declare his purpose for coming, shocking everyone's anticipation. The motive was his desire to become a hunter. Part 5. Within a cavern, the dragon descendant inquires if our champion will aid her. Ryu affirms, stating that even if his presence isn't questionable, the reality that he lacks attire or tools from this realm will expose his true identity. The wyvern continues complaining, and the lead character observes that she hasn't taken a life thus far because she's an alluring creature, a captivating being. So he trusts she won't reveal his confidence. Grinning, our champion states that it's been ages since he engaged in a meaningful dialogue with another soul, eventually at last. This moves Effer's emotions, stirring recollections of her time as a human companion. Considering this, she chooses to alter her decision. She tells him she'll assist the protagonist, who expresses gratitude swiftly, but she requests silence regarding her existence. Abruptly, unexpectedly, the main character begins disrobing before the beast, the fauna, who grows flustered, mortified by the lack of decorum refinement. She inquires about the hero's actions, his current activity, and he replies he's changing attire garments. However, Effer is offended that Rio is undressing, stripping, but he counters that she is as well also, having donned his attire, his clothing. The protagonist observes their diminutive size, and the possibility of sleeve tearing might occur. Shifting the conversation topic, the cloth maker imparts wisdom upon the world, requesting the champion not to disrobe carelessly. But this was already within his knowledge. Inquiring about locating the deity, Effer reveals deities rarely interact with mortals. Not even Rathnian, she clarifies one must be among the chosen four, or have accomplished a significant feat to encounter them and obtain their favor. She appends, the sole path to divine grace is joining their ranks, those who pursue beasts in lairs begotten by the infernal entity Ormphlas. Ryu comprehended, and noted the guide also indicated his necessity to transform into a pursuer, to commune with the goddess's greatly perplexing effort. As he attempted to present the instructional display, the beast could not perceive it, illustrating to the protagonist that solely he could witness it. Clarified to her its function as an aid mechanism, yet distinct from people of alternate realms. His was flawed, thus he lacked comprehension of operations. Returning to the headquarters, Rare contemplated the guidance. Unlike other vocations, huntsmen enjoyed a far less restricted existence. Therefore, it's unremarkable to assert they hold superior ranks. In this instance, he must exercise heightened vigilance, since numerous others likely followed the identical approach. Lastly, while mending the protagonist's hair, Effer recapitulated all her counsel advising against behaving foreign. This induced significant unease in Ryu. The clerk presented a document to Mr. Eric Garun, inquiring if he hailed from Campbell up north, to which he stammered an affirmation. This elicited a skeptical gaze from the lady, leading her to suspect something questionable about the grant. She upholds decorum and greets him warmly. Ryu subsequently experiences a sense of relief, believing he might face significant repercussions had he adhered to the guide's directives. The individual inquires, if the gentleman desires to shift from a different guild to this particular one, but amends it, leading her to inquire how she might provide assistance. The protagonist states his aspiration to be a hunter, and the simple utterance suffices to provoke trepidation and vigilance among all present individuals. Perspiring anxiously, the attendant inquires if the gentleman implies he isn't yet a hunter, and everyone echoes this notion. They converse quietly amongst themselves, speculating that the newcomer could be an outlander. But one suggests maintaining silence. Confronted by the shift in ambience, Rue is perplexed by their response, questioning if he committed a transgression. The lady requests the hero to position his hand upon the analyzing stone. He contemplates a potential confrontation, but their wavering suggests apprehension. Thus, relying upon his capabilities, they can devise suitable confirmation. Adhering to the guild regulations, Rio merely needs to contact the stone. He questions its otherworldly detection ability, and if discovered there, a meeting with the goddess becomes impossible. However, choosing escape equates to divulging his secret. Ruining all would be simpler, yet he anticipates success. In reality, the clerk admires the hero's qualities, declaring them all heroic, which awes the populace. Rio strikes a dramatic pose. Wyvern mounted and armored, he must now eliminate the Ormflaws, the dreadful monstrous deity, elating all observing the champion's tale. Exertion solely watched the absurdity silently, patiently. She states disbelief in what she overheard, but Ryu adds fantasizing is without cost. Against the primary assumption, as he touches the evaluating stone, the protagonist reveals a Tier 5 combat. At first, everyone is stunned, doubting their observation. Yet they erupt in hilarity, and presently, they discuss their past foolishness amongst themselves. To presume he originated from another realm, Ree is perplexed by the cause of the amusement. Yet the clerk cannot contain herself currently. Following the mirth, she clarifies that individuals emerging from woodlands to enlist their hail from different universes. Thus, if a champion's rank were greater, it becomes an issue as a gentleman enters the dialogue, stating that these peculiar individuals commence at rank 20 and invariably utter the identical phrase, desiring to be hunters despite already possessing rank 20. With relief, the lady informs Ryu the enrollment fee is 300x. Ryu never imagined Head appreciate his low ranking, but as he retrieves currency from his wallet to settle the cost, he discovers he expended 300x of the 400x borrowed from Effer, which equates to 11,000. Then the protagonist's identification is finalized, and the clerk informs him a duplicate will be priced at 80x. Furthermore, she instructs him to return when his level is sufficient. Ryu believes matters are now commencing earnestly, and he must establish his reputation within the hunter community. The lady inquires if he has a task in mind. The hero expresses his desire to investigate the labyrinth, and presently, an individual interjects into the discussion. Challenging his decision, a gentleman with light hair tells him it's wiser to remain composed than become creature sustenance. After all, a level 5 individual should recognize their standing. The guild lady greets Mr. Lod and inquires if his party intends to visit the Save Forest. Lod subsequently shares some tidings. He states that dungeon monster numbers are rising, significantly with creatures now assaulting nearby homes. Lod, being level 21, brags he feels uneasy, dispatching unskilled hunters to perform his duties. Thus he must attend to this matter personally. Rue is perplexed by the man's arrogance, given they possess the same level as her half. However, broadly speaking, he surpasses all others. Nevertheless, the protagonist wishes to avoid him, and the lady, averting Lod's stare, mentions a remaining opening in his company. She then addresses Mr. Eric, declaring solo missions are unachievable, and dungeon delving is even more perilous. This causes the hero to anticipate the worst concluding. She suggests collaborating with Lod's team might be prudent, amidst acclimating to the unfamiliar surroundings, transforming Ryu's deepest fears into a tangible horror. Upon concluding their deliberations, the party's commander addresses one of his subordinates, declaring that due to the presence of a novice recruit, his position within the group is no longer tenable. Nevertheless, the sorcerer challenges him asserting his level of 25. And Ryu discerns the tutorial exhibits a rank exceeding the declared one. Internally, he deduces the mage harbors a concealed agenda. The protagonist suspects his gaze lingered excessively upon the sorcerer, yet it's inconsequential given Laud's proclamation of insufficient room, nonetheless fabricating a theatrical display. The team captain disputes the circumstances. He asserts that because the petition originates from Lady Sajirai, the esteemed luminary of the Empress Hunters League, he shall personally address the insignificant level 5 creature. Ryu experiences vexation at the derogatory label, but contemplates that engaging him would result in certain demise. Desiring to engage in a playful exchange with the hero, Lud inquires if Ryu harbors aspirations of ascending to Sword King, owing to the dimensions of his blade. Yet as he endeavors to hoist it, he observes a peculiarity: the weapon remained immobile, prompting inquiry regarding a mere 5th level's capacity to wield such. At that juncture, the protagonist's focus shifts towards Lod, inducing the party commander's form to quiver intensely. Brandishing his saber alongside the huntsman, Aryo mandates him to relinquish his possession. This invigorates the guild constituents as they harbor disdain for Lod intensely, and they yearn for a confrontation to commence. Abruptly, an individual with azure orbs and a distinctive hairstyle advances alongside his entourage, declaring he ultimately located what he sought. The renowned Kirito exhibits his prowess by elevating Lod from the terrain, utilizing his blade effortlessly, demonstrating he isn't as feeble as they presume, astonishing all present as this originated from a rank 5 huntsman who was recently enrolled in such an instance. The mohawk-adorned man's eyes gleam with the spectacle witnessed. He conveys to the protagonist that possessing such a physique, he will triumph over even those at rank 10. Nevertheless, the team captain requests Berkman not intervene because he is instructing the novice. Berkman inquires if the champion's moniker is Eric, and declares to him that combat there is not an issue, but should he harm the alliance, he shall confront everyone, following unintentionally damaging a league edifice. The leading man expresses remorse, stating he desires not to battle any present and wishes not to be dismissed. Following a collision with the protagonist, which caused Laud to tumble, he furiously declares that no other would welcome a level 5. Excluding himself, Ryu comprehends the man's correctness, since he expended nearly all his funds simply to enroll, and is powerless due to his low rank. However, Birkin shatters the hero's spirit, declaring that advancing with his physique will be effortless. Moreover, Berkman sought an individual with a physique like Eric's, and subsequently presents our protagonist a chance to enlist, with a twinkle in his gaze. The gentleman states he understands such musculature takes time, and that the sole cause for his low ranking is because of insufficient practical knowledge. Ree discerns this elder's level is rather substantial, but since he originated from a different realm, his developmental pace is accelerated. Therefore, he won't remain with the collective for an extended period. Nevertheless, he must exert himself if he desires progress, expressing gratitude for his inclusion. The metropolis of Enpause flourished due to the labyrinth and creatures, with enterprises and trades centered upon these huntsmen. The municipality manufactured, whereas utilizing materials procured by huntsmen. And there exist 2 primary hunting locales: the subterranean complex in the Ifon expanse, and the entryway zone of the secure woodland. Several minor settlements are situated near the woodland, yet creatures of darkness seldom stray beyond the woods. Conquest expeditions are quite uncommon and frequent. Nevertheless, recently, beastly assaults on the forest periphery have surged. Numerous huntsmen have embarked on subjugation quests. A typical apex predator is known as a devote, and although lumbering their grasp can pulverize stone, they utilize their mass to generate mighty blows, charging foes with swift velocity. One delivers a forceful head strike upon Berkman's defense. He exerts himself to endure the onslaught, yet the combatant surpasses the beast in strength, deftly repelling the strike. He's the mightiest bulwark in all of Enpres. However, confronting 3 Devokes simultaneously is arduous. Berkwin swiftly discerns the impending assault on his vulnerability, recognizing his momentary lapse in vigilance. Fortuitously, he parries the beast's attack defensively. Midway, nonetheless, a mishap transpires, with Berkman tripping on the terrain and plummeting to his knees under the strain from that Devoke. At this crucial juncture, 8 arrives with a female wielding a lance. Bypassing the beasts with utmost velocity and agility, she impales the throat of one of them, granting the party's protector a chance to concentrate on his solo combat. And vanquished Evoke, this lady is the damage dealer of the Tier 21 squad. Following the skirmish, she jests if Burkhan desires to withdraw for having troubles, even against these feeble creatures. The protector begins chuckling after hearing the proposition, but the lady perceives something unusual about him. Examining his shoulder, she uncovers a profound laceration and grieves, declaring they must retreat swiftly to attend to it. But Berkman claims it's trivial and in a tender instant, requests Amber not to fret over him. With a quivering tone, she remarks on her lack of prior concern for him. Their lips sneered in a lovely display yet. The tank's injuries begin mending by an individual, disrupting the pair's intimate exchange. The person summoned Preller's respiration. It's Erwin Ropel present, the 16th level spiritualist of the party and Berkman's sibling. The tank boasts of his state and Amber displays shame. She further brags playfully that her brother relies heavily upon her. But a creature emerges from behind. Luckily by chance, a rescuer casts a mighty incantation firehammer. This is the mage aiding the 18th level recruiting group, whom, after rescuing Erwin, notes the peril she faced from such recklessness. Berkner's company excels. Regarding well-balanced and harmonious squads, they prioritize beyond mere offense and are most trusted in N-Press. Observing their collaborative efforts, Ruth believes there's no superior location to be present in this. And that's the reason the circumstance is monotonous. Because meanwhile the team members quarrel, he simply needs to conceal himself and function as a luggage handler, even excluded from skirmishes because his rank was still insufficient. But they still divide the earnings evenly with him. So it's not entirely negative occurrences things progress smoothly. But there existed a predicament that solely the protagonist could perceive. At that juncture, numerous devolves were converging in a surprise attack, commanded by their level 25 overlord, who commences to deride his adversary for being immortal. Nonetheless, abruptly, the commander of the beast yields to certain wounds from projectiles propelled into his physique. The culprit of the assault was Ryu, who achieved this with mere launches of tiny rocks. The protagonist is disillusioned, because even possessing the utmost rank among them, it didn't generate any experience points. And the program notifies that he must pursue creatures of superior echelons. He proposes seeking formidable beasts with a stronger team subsequently. And in that instant, Erwin signals his companions it's time to regroup. Within the post-conflict surroundings, amidst timber dwellings, that female forcefully plunges a blade into the creature's abdomen and subsequently thrusts her appendage within the laceration. With a grin upon her countenance, she extracts the creature's core and presents it to her sibling, declaring they should acquire at least 15 times the value for this. The sorcerer affirms the mystical stone is substantial and states they can certainly obtain significant compensation for it. Moreover, they can vend the monster hide, achieving 2 objectives simultaneously. And while surveying the circumstances, Ryu contemplates under typical conditions he would have regurgitated, but he had also dissected numerous infernal hounds. Thus it was no longer an unusual occurrence, inspiring the protagonist to commence procuring the resources. Subsequent to dazzling all with his aptitude, Erwin inquires how the lead manages such speed, and he clarifies he's been practicing for 2 decades. This piques the lattice interest regarding her co-worker's years, who professes to be 24. Berkman enters the dialogue and questions the champion about his folks. He elucidates that due to being abducted 20 years prior, his memories of them are fragmented, and that returning to his residence is impossible. This moves everyone present, particularly Berkman, who never fathomed the hero's hardship. But presently, he need not feel sorrowful, as they choose to embrace him as kin. All assemble to offer solace to the protagonist, assuring him that all shall be well. And Ryu simply reflects on their kindness. The central figure expresses gratitude for the acceptance of one so lowly as himself into their collective. Berkman, however, solaces him, stating he remained at rank 25 for a quintet of years. This perplexes the protagonist, as the tank's present standing is also 25. Thus, Erwin interjects, informing them that few high-ranking beasts exist nearby, excluding those within the labyrinth. Amber clarifies that the regressed Overlord is deemed a high-level creature therein, and that they need not pursue mightier beings than these, given they lack desire to venture into areas such as dungeons. At this juncture, our lead experiences an epiphany and commences apprehension regarding his prospects. He resolves then to initiate action, rising and declaring to all he shall train with his blade. As the champion departs, Berkman requests his companion avoid overexertion, and the sorcerer advises against nearing the protected woodland, for it is a perilous locale. Amongst the group, Irwin remarks that a benevolent individual like the protagonist evidently cannot originate from an alternate realm. The sorcerer states he'll journey alongside him, to which the warrior concurs. Nearing the barrier, Hewer inquires about Master Eric's training progress, yet you having searched extensively find no sign of Rio, while rapidly traversing Save Forest. The protagonist claims it's improbable due to Yun encountering diverse life. No creature there provides him experience. Despondent Ryu desperately seeks one, but those found don't even resemble monsters, more like domesticated creatures. He recalls a dialogue with Ryu. Ryu questioned the safety of her forest dwelling. She smiled, claiming regional supremacy. The protagonist accepts reality, discouraged by the lack of worthy adversaries. However, it seems logical. Creatures with wyvern-like levels provide him no experience. Returning before nightfall is wise. An abrupt, thunderous detonation is perceived by our champion. This evokes recollections of infernal canine dragons from his prior realm. Rapidly, he sprints to locate the origin of the clamor that seized his awareness. For although it lacks the magnificence of the hellish hounds, it undoubtedly couldn't emanate from an ordinary beast. Within his thoughts, Ryu contemplates that if perhaps he could pursue and vanquish the entity accountable for the blast, perhaps he could also ascend in power. Upon ultimately reaching the epicenter of the commotion, the valiant warrior readies himself to unsheathe his blade and summons forth the creature to engage in combat. Nevertheless, the scene before him is entirely unforeseen. Upon arriving at his intended location, Ryu discovers a gentleman with lengthy crimson locks utterly unclothed. The individual reveals himself to be the sorcerer from earlier encounters, who is astonished by the unwelcome intrusion. Yet our protagonist is equally taken aback and opts to express remorse, deducing that the individual before him is the magician from Lod's company. The champion remains perplexed as to his state of undress. However, he comprehends that presently that's inconsequential given the absence of a creature. Despite this, he was confident the origin was there, but he resolves to excuse himself and departs, claiming he will feign ignorance of the event. Yet the sorcerer requests Ryu pause briefly, remarking on his dubious appearance. This causes our hero to feel offended, as he lacked the standing to make such an assertion. Completely unclothed, the sorcerer elaborates, stating this location unsuitable for a level 5, contemplating the urgent need to locate the beast. Ryu mentions overhearing a commotion while passing, and speculated a large creature might be present, and since his companions await him, his departure is necessary. However, the sorcerer was enraged and grabbed his staff for an attack. He conjures a fiery ring around Ryu, halting his exit, demands the hero cease and confess the reality. The sorcerer inquires if they observe the creature, and cautions him with an inferno incantation if he remains silent. Suddenly, our champion advances toward the gentleman and encircles the apex of his enchanted rod, squelching the blaze from the sorcery. Instantly, the sorcerer becomes utterly vulnerable, and Akira's demeanor shifts to gravity. He states his ignorance regarding the unfolding events, as he previously declared no beast sightings. Moreover, Ryu inquires regarding the mages and Lod's predicament, since they perpetually belittle lower-ranked individuals. That sorcerer subsequently asserts that his intentions were misconstrued and expresses remorse, confessing to excessive emotional display. Within the forest depths, Laud observed the entire dialogue and opted to unsheathe his armaments, due to an overwhelming animosity toward Ryu. He then bellows audibly, bracing for imminent confrontation, and this naturally captures the protagonist's awareness. A misinterpretation is obvious as day based on Laud's remarks. Observing the closeness of the pair, that seemingly Ryu chose to reveal his aggression now with a combative posture. Maud states that disgracing Miss Siguri solely wasn't sufficient. Thus Ryu had the nerve to harm the woman of their party. The protagonist doesn't comprehend who the party's head is referring to as the lady, and the magic user declares that his companion must not have grasped the situation. Therefore, perhaps it would be best if they depart. Lot is a formidable magic-wielding swordsman, and in spite of that stance, implies that he is readying to unleash a maneuver, and that posture is a drawback of belonging to this rank. Yet when he takes that stance, he is resolute. So their leader states he will utter just one last statement, inquiring about the adversary's name, the one who shall face defeat by his dual weapons. The protagonist suggests to the magic user they should prepare. After recognizing he was disregarded, he grows quite vexed and opts for immediate aggression, emanating a potent electrical field from his blade. With a grave countenance, Ludd declares he will display the disparity in their skill. That's pursuing the protagonist with his Tempest Blade technique. Ryu conversely wishes not to amplify this into a major conflict, so as the weapon nears his throat, he stoops, evading the strike and expressing remorse. Yet as he descends, a segment of the blade's handle impacts the man's groin, and a forceful gust of air, coupled with electricity, was produced at the location, creating a sound that reverberated through the woods. Back at the accommodations seated in a timber dwelling, the protagonist has his weapon embedded in the earth and appears to be lamenting over something. Birchman interjects, stating, Mr. Addis apprised him of the occurrence, and that it was not his culpability. But Ryu declares this is an agony for which he cannot be absolved. Upon choosing to await solely the findings, Iris unlatches the entryway of the dwelling, making each present inquisitive regarding the conclusion of the affair. The tank's sibling cautions that Laud is not presently in mortal danger, given he was transported swiftly for treatment. Yet the predicament remained grave. On entering the lodging to assess the man's true condition, all present grew hushed, though culpability could be assigned to him. The agony and distress he was enduring could not be solely ascribed to a single individual. This was an affliction none could alleviate for him. That daybreak, Mr. Addis escorted Laud to On-Press City. Subsequently, the team commander ascertained the reality of Addis' sex, experienced trouble confronting him once more. The champion couldn't locate the beast accountable for the tremendous racket, but he promptly dismissed it from his thoughts. Following 3 months integrated with Buccaneer's contingent, before safe forest at their encampment, an individual is perturbed by tidings concerning Lot. The affair appears dire, for according to hearsay, he chose to venture into the depths solo. Amber notes that entering the abyss alone with such experience equates to self-destruction. Thus Reel inquired, believing Lot possessed great power. She confirms his strength, yet he fought lesser beasts for survival, naturally increasing his prowess. However, formidable creatures were absent, a fact readily apparent to the protagonist. He inquired if those within were dissimilar. Amber clarified their otherworldly origins. Beasts spawned from lairs established by the deity Ormphlis. Therefore, encountering near level 30 or greater is commonplace. Rue believed those at 30 would enhance his might. Hence, entering the labyrinth was imperative, though covertly. Brookman cautioned against solely focusing on creatures. Irwa added that interdimensional humans hunted there, prompting the hero to reconsider given the peril. Ryu wondered about the frequent traffic there, and Buccaneer elucidates it's likely attributed to a restorative relic. Upon inquiry regarding the ancient artifact, it's clarified that the origin of potency within these subterranean chambers are relics. Objects are diverse forms with varied capabilities. As per hearsay, one such relic possesses the capacity to mend any injury. Thus, Laud likely aspires to locate one such. Countless creatures have been emanating from Save Forest recently. In this instance, Buchanan trusts this isn't a sinister portent. Yet Ryu comprehends this must be his sole recourse. As Mike collapses within the woods, all within the dwelling recline to slumber. Nevertheless, our protagonist opts for a solitary stroll. He states regardless of frequency he visits, it's still unnerving, and there shouldn't be a means for a colossal beast to not materialize in such a locale. Recalling Effa resides nearby, the protagonist deems it prudent to seek her counsel. However, as he traverses past a tree, an unusual sight materializes before him. Yawning Rue attempts to recall the wyvern's location and fails to spot a creature lurking behind. Their gazes lock briefly, a silent standoff. And comprehending the unfolding situation, the startled protagonist recoils hastily. Contemplating the entity's nature before him, he wonders, and readies himself to unsheathe his blade. This beast, a formidable level 31 to Titaro. The details reveal blade strikes are futile, its form encased in impenetrable armor. They typically inhabit the depths of the dungeon. Ryu is perplexed by the dungeon creature's presence. He contemplates deeply and reflects, recalling the monster system's warning about physical resistance. These foes present a formidable challenge indeed. Their advantage against the hero's combat style is clear. They also possess superior numbers, a daunting force, displaying an ability to communicate surprisingly. One inquires if he possesses magical abilities, and one more refutes it after observing the blade the guy was holding. At this juncture, the Taekwondo commenced chuckling at Ryu's visage for wielding a saber. He executes a perpendicular assault on one of them that cleaves it asunder in a single motion. Exulting upon comprehending the lesson is a fabrication, and departing the creatures in utter astonishment. The frantic Totaros converse amongst themselves that the champion's armament genuinely possesses enchantment imbued within. Nevertheless, the beast's arrogance resonates louder and proclaims that blades cannot inflict harm upon them, for they have perpetually consumed swordsman humankind. Upon concluding his discourse, Ryu swiftly materializes before the beast, inquiring what it is babbling about. One of them sagely chooses to abscond, as he discerns the predicament he is entangled in, and that it is perilous beyond the confines of the labyrinth. However, in a fleeting moment, Ryu overtakes and queries where the creature is headed, which paralyzes him in terror. In a frantic effort to survive, the creature excavates beneath a tree. It attempts to escape rapidly, and Ryu remains at its side, because he desires to follow the beast. After extensive digging, the beast reveals its entry point and readies its escape. Ryu remarks on finding the beast, but his focus shifts to the opening before him. The protagonist inquires about its nature, but it refuses to speak. The notification indicates active magical teleportation, directed toward the Eiffel Tower dungeon. The dungeon's connection to a portal ignites Ryu's intrigue and fascination. He was unaware of such occurrences in the dungeon, and questions if the beasts are responsible. But the creature states they don't utilize magic. The creature's response fails to persuade Ryu, whose inquiries persist, offering liberation in exchange for truth. Unconditional release, should he confess nonetheless. Absent collaboration, however, there will be. Our champion declares only obliteration remains his sole recourse. Yet the beast succumbs to anxiety, consumed by fear. Proclaiming annihilation is an impossibility forbidden, for entry is prohibited by that individual's explicit command. The protagonist is unaware of this person's identity. Nevertheless, he resolves to traverse the gateway. Feigning ignorance to the creature, he claims saw nothing. The being's present objective appears clear. His duty to ensure the portal's sanctity remains inviolate, lest that individual uncover the truth hidden within. Despite this deception for safe subterranean exploration, the Totoro accepts the fabricated explanation, fully convinced, resuming its task of concealing the chasm with soil once more, professing total unawareness of anything within the depths below. A Totoro's talons menacingly approach a hunter's visage. He faces genuine peril, ensnared, trapped, seemingly hopeless. Restrained, immobilized, yet his companion's safety preoccupies him, instructing her to remain steadfast. After extricating himself from the precarious predicament, the huntsman readies a forceful strike, impacting the creature's cranium, while commanding it to retreat from his companion. However, it's evident that thus far none of his offensives have prevailed. His blade is utterly ineffectual. In this instance, sorcery genuinely appears to be the sole viable remedy presently. A Totaro ultimately penetrates Alicia's left limb, causing her to cry out in agony and trepidation. Even injured, the sorceress invokes an incantation, beseeching the divine radiance to manifest its presence within the vicinity, accompanied by its luminous resonance. Thereby she conjures the flash spell, blinding the beast. However, the axe wielder is also impacted by the flash, discerning that everything is indistinct currently, yet at least he can perceive through a single eye, while shielding one of his eyes. The huntsman requests Runal's aid with his recuperation. Yet as he swivels his gaze toward his comrade, an utterly astonishing sight greets him. Lamentably, his fellow squad member has been seized by a Tataru and perished. Witnessing this, the huntsman beseeched the heavens for a savior to deliver his company, for their doom was fast approaching, about to be eliminated as well. The huntsman again implored for aid, now despairing. Suddenly the axe wielder is engulfed in crimson from his rear. Nevertheless, the gore isn't his own. It's the beast's for in response to his pleas. A rescuer materialized, vanquishing multiple Tataru instantly. The huntsman observes the Tataru's head detached, with a single strike, and not merely one. It's stated that a Tataru invariably shields its head with layered limbs, and the area to assault the neck is minuscule. However, this individual initially compelled the beast to lower its arms, and subsequently sever its cranium utilizing that chance. Confronting this maneuver can solely be executed by a mystical blade wielder, employer of gem weaponry such as Lad. An individual before him, Ward, inquires if the pursuer recognizes him, and he relays that indeed. They deduce that he journeyed to the labyrinth to pursue days prior. The gentleman commends his deliverer, declaring he's remarkable, and Ward clumsily expresses gratitude, having solely been endeavoring to endure for the preceding 70 days. To avoid overlooking the subsequent segment, engage the notification chime, and farewell until our next encounter on Tab's platform.